bans tick all the way down till 0 on the clock. Looks like OpTic are going to take their sweet time here with this one as well. Final ban of the first phase, Sejuani. That was pretty big for Wiggily.
It is, but it's interesting because J4 Sejuani is often a trade that people are happy to make. This does open up for a potential first pick J4 with CLG and then meteos, you know, perhaps getting pushed down. Sylas is up, so maybe that's the trade he would be willing to make, would be a Jarvan for a Sylas. And I do think Jarvan would be great for Wiggily, though. He's performed well on it. Sylas is going to be the choice, though. Yeah,
so it leaves Jarvan open. Of course, Sylas is fine against Jarvan in most cases. Oftentimes, he can do more damage with the Jarvan ult than Jarvan himself, plus the flexibility of it. So OpTic was definitely kind of clearly discussing a lot of what that final ban was going to be. Probably didn't get the most value out of the Sejuani, but we'll see how the rest of the draft plays out.
I mean, remember it was Wiggily on Sylas that hard carried and ended the 3-year losing spree that CLG had against TSM. He knows his way around this champion, and CLG fans, I'm sure, would love to see him pop off on it here again. But OpTic have decided to go for the Xayah as well as that Jarvan that meteos had a good performance on in game number 1. Caitlyn locked in. There it is. The prophet himself.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I think a lot of the draft has made sense so far. You know, I thought CLG might have taken the Jarvan, but for the trade for the Sylas, it's just been the reverse, right? So as soon as you see the Xayah coming in, you're essentially blocking most of the good pairings for Xayah. If it's Rakan, you're picking into a counter pick. Nautilus is another common pairing with Xayah, also really, really tough into Morgana. You can go a different route, and this may be actually a Karma support, just as, again, poke as the answer to Morgana. But I still think, you know, it's tough because if you ever get hit by that binding, the trap follows it up and you can get 100 to 0'd.
And speaking of the bindings and the traps working together, it's not just laning phase. I mean, as we go further into the game, we know what Caitlyn can do around objectives to secure them with a line of those Yordle snap traps. And if there's only one way to funnel through and Morgana's got her sights aimed right at it, turns out there's no ways to funnel through. But going through into the second part of the bans here, the first one OpTic's going to get rid of is Skarner. F in the chat. And that means they're going to be looking to pinch this jungle pool a little bit more, just in case that Sylas isn't in the jungle and goes into solo lane.
Yeah, and the Karma can also be flexible on the side of OpTic. There's a decent chance that that is a mid lane or a top lane Karma, and they still combo with the Rakan. I think it's really interesting that OpTic ended up going with Karma there as the third pick before the second ban phase, because it's almost daring CLG to ban the Rakan, knowing that it could also flex down to something like Nautilus, or the Karma could just go down there anyway. So really trying to keep as many options open as possible, because I think CLG in this final game is just going for lane domination. They had the late game with the Sivir Azir first game. They won the second game with the hard initiation, and here, with OpTic completely on the back foot, if you can get them down a good amount of gold in the first 10 minutes, the mental just kind of breaks, and CLG would walk away with 3-0.
Yeah, and I mean, I think even some of these bans are kind of leading you to believe that they want to be having an isolated 2v2 bot lane, right? You're banning out the Talia, something that's barely ever played, because you don't want Crown running interference. You don't want the Zoe roaming down. Some of these champions that can have a lot of effectiveness. You know, Aurelion Sol, though, would be exciting in another roaming pick. Unlikely to get it. And we'll see as we're likely going to have a Jayce here locked in for Dhokla. So they want to save this last pick for Crown, likely, although as you said, it could theoretically be that Karma mid. I just don't think it's Dhokla or Crown style. We've never seen them play the Karma. Crown is traditionally the hard carry. You know, Dhokla is traditionally not playing the lane dominant stuff like the Karma. So, you know, I am more expecting it to go to big, but he has no plays on it either. So we will have to find out.
Counter Logic Gaming still have those solo laners or potentially jungle to pick up. The flex power of the Sylas doing its work here. Poppy locked in.
Two sides to every lane matchup. We got to see Ruin v Dhokla's Poppy with Jayce on the other side, and we got it switched up in this game. It is the pick against Jayce, and now we'll get to see if Ruin can get some gank support or not get pushed in as much as we saw on the flip side of the matchup.
Counter Logic Gaming sitting on this Ahri hover here for a while, but probably not going to be the choice. Over to Syndra, and that one's locked in for PoE.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. You know, he only has the one play on it so far this split, but, you know, it is a fairly safe blind pick. You know, we already see that some of these kind of go-tos for him are banned away from the mid lane, so should be pretty safe. Orianna would pair very well with the Jarvan, but Corki is still available, and it looks like that is likely going to be the choice here for Crown.
All right, so that means Karma moves down to the support position. I think that does make still quite a strong lane for CLG down bottom. There's, depending on if they swap that Sylas and Poppy, there's a chance they wouldn't swap the Sylas and Poppy because you can do Poppy jungle, although that would be pretty unlikely.
Yeah, I would be really surprised.
On the Poppy top lane matchup at jayce.
Yeah, exactly. Sylas definitely not a great matchup into jayce in the top lane. But the other thing we have to keep in mind is I wonder how much emphasis OpTic was putting around not actually drafting strong ultimates for Sylas, because it doesn't really feel like there's super powerful ultimates here. You can steal Jayce ult and become the ranged Jayce. You know, Cataclysm is pretty nice, but like the Karma ult, the Corki ult, the Xayah ult, all not very effective. So really, there's really just the one big ticket ultimate in the Jarvan here for Sylas. So they are limiting some of Wigglily's playmaking power just simply through their draft.
Whatever their game plan is, they have to put all the chips on the table for it here. 2-0 for CLG means they are one game away from punching that ticket to Detroit. And in case you missed the introduction to this series in game one, remember that neither of these teams has any points from spring. FlyQuest has already secured that bottom spot in the gauntlet after summer has officially ended, and that means that if you lose here, you're done for the rest of the split.
Just an added amount of pressure. You want to be able to go to Detroit with the victory. You want the chance at the summer finals, but then also that added cost of losing once again, as OpTic is in their first ever LCS playoffs, and CLG in the playoffs for the first time since 2017.
Here we go on to Summoner's Rift for the third and what could be final time of the day. Everybody running out of the gates as soon as they fall. And I think the first thing that catches my eye this time around, PowerOfEvil, Aftershock Syndra.
What about the Predator Jarvan?
There's Predator Jarvan too, but I was looking at the left side of the screen. I go left to right.
What about the Conqueror Poppy?
I almost feel like, okay, there's no way these are right.
Okay,
there's no way these are right.
Are you sure?
Nope.
Comet, Crown, Predator Jarvan,
Yeah,
I would be
right.
really surprised. There's too many weird ones. Even PTA on Caitlyn is a little bit more atypical.
All right, as we're waiting to figure out whether or not these are right, and as we're waiting to see if CLG's invade is going to work, hold on 1 second, slammed up into the wall and pushed down into the dirt. It's first blood for CLG.
And if your mental was already shaken from the previous games, dying to a first blood invade like that is not going to feel good.
And as CLG get first blood, Riv is standing by for a sideline report with Weldon. Take it away, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I'm sorry you just missed the high five between these two. Weldon and Irene are joining me after we saw that first blood. CLG Gaming is playing amazing. We didn't get a chance to talk to you after game one. What kind of was the problem that CLG was finding there that resulted in a win, but was a very tough game?
Well, we kind of gave up a lot of engage in draft, and so the guys just had to play like really defensively and try to look for, you know, those really small windows of turns, and that's what we were practicing, is being mentally resilient in scrims, and it paid off.
Awesome. And then Irene, it's been going well from here. What did you say to the guys coming off stage going into this game?
So I think our comp is very consistent at 5v5. So we need to group if possible. So we just push out some wave side, then we just group at the mid. Then we are very strong against them comp.
Coaches, thank you very much. Best of luck in the rest of the series. Congrats on the wins. We're going to throw it back to you guys to get in the game.
Nice little flash for flash there from meteos. So we have a confirmation they were not the correct runes as I expected. Now they have been updated, it looks like here. So this should be correct. Electrocute makes a lot more sense. Conqueror makes a lot more sense.
Now there's not as much fun stuff to talk about. We could have gone
Yeah,
down
there
a
was.
whole rabbit hole.
Yeah, I
And
thought
we
that was
could
going to be
have.
a
We would have been
wacky
wrong
game.
about it, but
Yeah, that's true.
All right, so it's fleet footwork on Corki, as expected. Electrocute Syndra, pretty much expected. Conqueror junglers either way, normal stuff.
I do want to touch back on what Weldon Irene said during that interview as well, as far as dealing with mental resiliency and how that actually is a very important aspect of these best of fives. In game one, when they didn't have initiation and they had fallen behind, it does take resiliency, much like it takes resiliency for OpTic to come back in this game after giving up first blood. Meteos is in position if he can make a play happen.
Meteos already got one flash there in the mid lane. Now he's going to get a second. Could he get a third? Biofrost trying to turn things around. Man, CLG pulled
get
that
more, he has
off
double
well.
buffs.
Oh, Stixxay with double buffs now in the bottom lane. It is a 1-for-1, but they played that right.
That takes some guts from Biofrost because he actually didn't flash the initial Jarvan EQ because the whole time they were thinking, let's kill someone. He didn't flash because he wanted the short-range binding so he could chain it with the trap, so he could chain it with the Caitlyn headshots, and that's exactly what they did. Even if it's 1-for-1, that is absolutely worth it to get it in a 2 versus 3.
Yeah, I mean, this is a huge win. Nice sidestep from Biofrost, then
Boom,
nails the
binding.
binding, ignite, W. The Piltover Peacemaker comes across. Biofrost almost lived as well. And this slow with the red buff, if he actually doesn't get hit by that Q from Big, Arrow gets chased down and killed as well. The kill went to Caitlyn instead of the Karma. Everything is so much better about that. Oh no.
What? That was just so much of Arrow's health.
That may have been even more if Stixxay wasn't a little early walking up to turret because he took a turret shot which delayed his trap placement. That could have been, you know, at least an extra auto for Stixxay and maybe not even force the recall, but he goes back for pickaxe and they try to maintain their lane control.
CLG off to a damn fine start here in this third game in a best of 5. Stixxay still with those double buffs here for a little while longer. CLG lane control is all but certain.
And you do have to know, you know, one of the more atypical masteries here is actually the Comet. So Biofrost is going for lane knowledge. This is about the additional poke, and you'll note that that first little trade pattern they had when Arrow TP'd in, that was both his potion charges. So if he gets much more poke onto him, he will have to base, and they're going to lose multiple turret plates. They're going to lose so much CS, so he's got to be so careful under this turret.
And this does speak to being flexible as a team for COG. Last game, they were all about playing around Ruins, Kleptomancy, Camille, and the bottom lane had to just withstand. This is completely different in terms of how Stixxay and Biofrost are playing. Although the jungle actually hasn't been involved in either one. They actually withstood the 3v2 gank to maintain this dominance from the Caitlyn Morgana.
Yeah, everything going so well for their 2v2. You know, we didn't talk about where that first blood gold went either, you know, but that was also a Frostfang purchase, you know, over early on to Biofrost, so he's going to have his gold really ramped up as well. And when you're pushing his turret,
Oh, man.
oh, big.
Biofrost is just hitting binding after binding after binding in this lane that is able to punish so well. Big just barely gets away from that one.
It's a situation where he knows that they're about to walk up to either prep or last hit a minion, so he's throwing their binding where they're going to have to go to last hit that. If you dodge away, you miss the minion. If you don't, you get hit by the binding, you potentially die.
Meteos is coming back down bottom side here yet again. He'll clear out the control ward, but considering it was there, that means that's all he'll get. As we take a look up at top side, we haven't really got a chance to discuss this too much, but Ruin doesn't seem to be having a bad time at all against Dhokla's Jayce.
Yeah, I really do think that sometimes in the early lane, Poppy has some threat onto Jayce, especially if you have some type of vision control. He's playing the lane very well. We haven't actually seen, I don't think, jungle interference or influence on that lane yet, but credit to Ruin for having that even to slightly positive CS in that lane.
See if Dhokla can interrupt Ruin's back. Yes, he will, finding his way in the river there to stop that one from getting off in time. Bottom side, though, Stixxay and Biofrost are getting so familiar with the real estate around this OpTic Gaming turret. They've already taken down a couple of plates. The gold lead growing ever steadily for CLG.
Yeah, and Meteos went down there only getting the control ward out. Stixxay still had one in his inventory. They're well stocked, so they got control of the river. Once again, it's very difficult for OpTic to do anything to actually get control of that lane back. Solo laners have used teleport for lane tempo, and how much longer can this turret last? 3 plates by 7 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, just even the implication of a possible roam meant they had to give up that wave. They had to back off again.
Right, exactly. As soon as Crown tells them, hey, my laner's missing, you guys are going to have to just get out, head for the hills. Nothing good can come of this. There's nothing you can do to try to defend it. Crown going to be leaving the lane himself now, heading towards the bottom side river with Meteos to clear out some of this vision. Just try to retake a little bit of control over the bottom part of the map. Meteos still only level 5. Wiggily here level 6. But again, the Sylas doesn't have a ton of good ultimates to steal. He will be looking for Meteos to try to steal the Cataclysm away if he can. Meteos has found his way into the enemy jungle to steal that red buff now.
Pretty good invade by Meteos. All things considered, with the bottom lane going the way it has to actually make it in there. Still behind in experience, though, because he has had to spend so much time in transit.
Well, he'll pass off the blue buff now over to Crown, who will be happy to spam some more rockets. is top side. Dhokla was able to get that CS lead back pretty well for himself after he TP'd back into the lane. Ruin is still looking for this 1v1. He pops the ulti, but it won't do a whole lot here for him. Should buy him the opportunity to shove this out, get himself a decent back, picks up his shield, and Dhokla's still trading, but considering that Jayce doesn't have a lot of mana left to work with, Ruin's not that afraid, and CLG says, hey, you know what? We have all this bottom side control, let's grab that Drake. Nice turn.
Yeah, speaking of Ruin, he plays lanes so aggressively, sometimes to his detriment. He's most likely, I think, of the top laners in the LCS now to either get a solo kill or be solo killed, because he'll take a lot of those 50-50 all-ins against opponent laners with the attempt of outplaying it. And when you're up 2-0 in a series, I think that's a great mentality to have, because the other guy's just been beaten twice in a row and is more likely to give you some of that ground, so to speak, when you play very aggressively.
And especially when you're coming off the back of that Camille game, you know, it's going to be in the back of Dhokla's mind, like, oh God, I can't let this happen again, right? I've got to be careful. I've got to make sure that he doesn't get these advantages. And meanwhile, you know, when you're playing that aggressive on the top side with a winning bot lane, if their jungle comes top, you can get objectives on the bottom side. Syndra is pushing up mid. Bot is winning very heavily in the 2v2. That's what allowed them to take that dragon. And if you show top for a potential gank, there's always the chance that they could then dive your bottom lane.
Speaking of bottom lanes, Biofrost, the only man left on the map without level 6. We'll see when that Morgana ultimate comes online here. Shouldn't take too much longer. He's about 90% of the way up to that 6th level. And there we go. That one's picked up as the minions are collapsed upon. We'll see if either of the junglers make a move towards there. But right now, nobody's even close. Wiggily decides to hand that buff over to Syndra, who does what only Syndra can do and just yoinks it away, slams it into the ground. Corki package won't find much. Usually early game they don't, and Crown heads back mid to farm up, shove that wave in, waiting for his opponent to come back.
Yeah, and you'll notice Biofrost already completed his Sightstone. You know, that ticked over about 20-30 seconds ago, so very fast Sightstone completion. That is one of the big advantages of actually getting an early Frostfang, is you get access to those wards earlier, which then allows you to have more safety when you are in this pushing position. You can get those deep wards out on the map, river wards, you know, next time he goes back to base, and then protect himself.
Oh, but here comes OpTic. They're looking for the 2v2, but Biofrost says, here you go! Stixxay grabs himself the kill, the ace in the hole, the ace up their sleeve, CLG popping off in the bottom lane.
Continuing to dominate that laning phase, Biofrost uses the stopwatch to its best ability, and because everything showed bottom lane, Ruin just continues to get damaged out onto Dhokla. No plates at all from Dhokla's Jayce early on in this game.
Can't stop the poppy. Bottom side arrow will defend himself underneath the turret. He has help waiting nearby in case CLG gets real frisky and tries to go for the dive, but they see there's no reason to do that. They are low on mana for Stixxay, low on health for Biofrost. He'll go back to the base, start working on that arm guard. Let's take another look at the 2v2.
Here, this is one more time. Nice route from Arrow onto Stixxay, but Biofrost just goes forward onto both of them. Does not even need the binding ultimate ignite. More than enough with the ultimate coming through there from Stixxay to kill off Big. Really well played there. And yeah, and Poppy is actually taking a turret play herself. So, I mean, this is a matchup where Poppy certainly can do well in the early levels before Jayce has items to armor shred and sustain through. But generally, it still results in Poppy farming pretty well and trading okay, and Jayce pushing you in. Yeah. Right? This is the extreme opposite. When we saw the reversed matchup, Ruin was still at least having Dhokla at his turret, and you know that is really where you want to have it.
Yeah, now we have Ruin actually down in CS, but up in pressure with Poppy versus Jayce. So just a different mindset than a lot of the other top players.
Yeah, I mean, you're seeing him utilize his tackle to actually tackle range minions to throw the grasp passive onto the Jayce, right? So he is trying to play in his face and constantly trade him down, and I think it really is taxing sometimes to play against those players. It's like, you're not even going to go for the minion? We're both missing CS here. Just farm.
I'm going to drag you down with me. That's the Ruin attitude, but it's working here so far in this third game. PowerOfEvil finding himself a nice trade onto Crown, who, when he's dropped down to 60% HP like that against a mage like Syndra, man, you got to be careful. You misstep one time, you're in some trouble.
Yeah, Crown showing a lot of respect to PowerOfEvil as well, starting with the Hex Drinker. That will greatly delay his Trinity Force. Meanwhile, PoE has the free boots and the Ludens. But here comes Wiggily. They're looking to crash.
All right, bottom side. Big and Arrow once again going to be the target.
Oh, Misty.
Big manages to get himself away for a moment. Wiggily will likely die here. Flashes over the wall into Meteos' waiting arms.
and Crown teleports in. So 4 people invested down bottom lane for OpTic in the 1-for-1.
And here we go again with the Poppy.
Use all your spells.
This is the most aggro Poppy I have ever seen in my life. He's looking for Dhokla. He's not going to find him just yet. Throws down another one of those slams and disengages.
Yeah, Ruin is just playing this so aggressively, and they're going to get the first turret on the bottom side. It was a 1-for-1 trade. They might kill him.
Arrow! See you later. Killing spree for Stixxay.
I feel bad for Arrow in this one. It's certainly been a frustrating series for him, and now bot lane is just completely spinning out of control. Look how much farm Stixxay has. We're 13-40 into the game. He's at basically 150 CS, basically a 50 CS lead, took the turret. He's up over 2,000 gold. This is just an absurd advantage, and Caitlyn has such an easy time, you know, really making good on those leads because she has so much range.
Yeah, Stixxay and Biofrost really taking control of this game. I don't even really think Wiggily has too much to say about this. This has been 2v2 or 2v3 in a lot of situations. PoE's got to find a way out of this, and he's fine.
Yep, he had flash, even if he didn't have backup coming, but with Biofrost and Stixxay on his heels, he knows that there's no way OpTic chases that any further.
Yeah, they're probably going to try and look towards this Drake as well. OpTic looks like they might be trying to force something, knowing that they're just getting poked out over and over by this Caitlyn, but it's just going to make it from bad to worse.
Yeah, problem is you don't force something onto a Caitlyn team around a neutral objective.
I mean, Biofrost is actually closing in on gold with Crown. He's 400 gold behind the mid laner as the support. Wow. He almost has a Zhonya's. He's actually going to have a Zhonya's on base. He will have his first completed item before the opposing mid laner.
He has more gold than his top laner. He's got more gold than Ruin, who's been playing aggressive for the whole game. Yeah, Biofrost and Stixxay
is fed.
Looking to make their way into semifinals with a dominant performance. They were both second team on the All-Pro voting this split, so getting the respect of a dominant bottom lane as well and really making it work here in this game.
I mean, Biofrost was who I saw as the catalyst for this team when they first started popping off. Remember, CLG has been in a pretty bad spot for a couple of years now. They haven't been in playoffs for a while. They were struggling with seemingly everything. And in this split, things changed. And Biofrost and Stixxay have been one of the huge catalysts. Remember, back in Spring Split, this was not a bottom lane that people were like, wow, what the hell are these guys doing? Because it is impressive. But now here in summer, they're popping off.
7 wins, 11 losses every split prior to this one that Biofrost was on CLG. Even though it was a CLG curse, sometimes Biofrost might have thought it was himself being cursed. And Stixxay as well, at one point, was the replacement to Doublelift, is the eldest member of this CLG team. Actually, the team leader all time for kills in playoffs, trying to have a big performance.
Yeah, and Stixxay is the only player on CLG that was in playoffs last time CLG was in playoffs, right? Like, he's the only guy remaining from that last CLG roster. You know, they have had this resurgence, and yeah, Ruin came in this split, but it hasn't just been about the improvements that Ruin has brought. It's been about Stixxay and Biofrost really stepping up, as you guys were mentioning, and Wiggily, his rapid improvement. You know, we heard earlier in the split, Stixxay talking about how fast he got good, and it really has been a sight to see.
All right, Ruin's gonna find himself in a 1v2. He'll slam Meteos up against his own wall. He'll knock Dhokla away, and then he says, nope, I'm not running, I'm the Poppy. And he keeps on fighting and forces OpTic to retreat.
Oh, and they went for that fight. I think, okay, surely he at least flashes, right? But no, he stalls enough, knocks Dhokla out. Biofrost is also there to save the day, and now they can just move that Caitlyn pressure top to get the third turret before 17 minutes.
CLG is looking to make this the fastest game of the series so far. All 3 outer turrets dismantled. Shelly now on the menu. Wiggily putting the work in on that one. Shouldn't need too much more time to get rid of it, especially not with Stixxay showing up. But of course, we'll see if they can get much. They have to aim at those tier 2s. PowerOfEvil here on the bottom side. Crown looking to find the plays. PowerOfEvil with a fast feed. Dog is away again. The man's got his dancing shoes on.
Crown really wanted that. They need something, and Ruin is now behind him. Crown is going to get taken out.
Here comes the Poppy. PowerOfEvil takes the kill.
PoE definitely tempting fate a bit by picking up that kill. Actually means Ruin doesn't get the assist gold either, but it's got to feel good just for the mano-a-mano PoE versus Crown dodging all his skill shots to eventually get the kill.
Mano-a-mano plus flanking Poppy.
Yeah, no, 1v1, solo kill.
Don't worry about the world.
It's never a fair fight, Jatt. Never a fair fight.
The Poppy didn't matter there. No damage, doesn't count. But top side, Wigglily's going after Dhokla here. And a Jayce with no mana is not exactly a match for a Sylas. There comes the accelerated shock blast, but Dhokla's like, nope, I'm wise to these tricks, steps out of the way, and that won't go any further.
6,000 gold and the Mountain Drake. It's also going to transition into Baron, but remember, they also have the Rift Herald, so I think they're either just going to use it right now top lane. Yep, there it is. Since they chucked out Dhokla to get this second turret.
Well, here goes PowerOfEvil, making sure he's around to continue helping Shelly take this down. Meanwhile, Biofrost and Wiggily are just waiting here in the brushes to the south of that turret. In case anybody tried to rotate up, they were going to stop them. But instead, they'll take down a tier 2 top, they'll take down a tier 2 mid. Shelly's a little bit distracted bonking these minions, but she's about to get another charge off and nobody stops it.
Yeah.
Everybody from OpTic is just not ready to defend this right now. And with Caitlyn and Karma being here as well, that's a tier 3 turret down before 19 minutes. Stixxay's on the front line. Black Shield keeping him safe. And once again, Poppy doing what she does, getting rid of unwanted problems.
They're just taking so many towers. 6 towers pre-20 minutes is ridiculous. And they are in such an incredible position to close out this game here. Stixxay is sitting on 9,000 gold, sitting 3,200 ahead of Arrow. Like that is absurd. That is so far ahead. Arrow's never going to really have any relevance in this game. I mean, Biofrost has more gold than he does.
Yeah, Stixxay is a full big-ticket item up over his opponent, which is pretty incredible when you consider the fact that last game, it was CLG who got 2v2 killed for the first blood. It was CLG who were losing the bottom lane and gave OpTic their potential only win condition. Now they're saying, oh no, we're going to do this our way as PowerOfEvil gets dove meteos' way, a shutdown for OpTic Gaming.
Crown brings his friend this time, able to get the dive, but let's see what CLG can do.
Oh, another one. Just dial 1-800-BINDING and Biofrost makes them happen time and again.
I like that. That was good. It's the binding. They get the kill. Crown will take a tower down on the bottom side, but CLG have full control of the map right now. You know, going to be able to be taking away camps in the top side jungle up here as Wiggily is doing it, and they're really poised to do whatever they want to close out this game.
Yeah, progression of this series was OpTic coming out with the sneak Baron at 20 minutes in game 1, eventually getting 4 Barons, 4 Drakes, an Elder on top of it, and not quite being able to close. During that game, when there are still so many unknowns in this series, you think, hey, this could be real close. Stixxay, though, might get caught out here.
Meteos going after Stixxay. He made sure he took an extra half second there when he stood by the wall. You saw it to make sure the flash would get him away to safety.
Here.
But OpTic is not done. They really want this Caitlyn. Meteos is going to tank the turret as long as he possibly can. Shutdown goes over to OpTic. They'll pick up a second on to PowerOfEvil. They've lost big for it, but it's still a big win for OpTic.
Yeah, that's a nice play from OpTic at a time where they really needed something. Yeah. They will commit to this. They're going to lose a tower or at least some health on this bottom side, but I still think it's a worthwhile play. You have to be aggressive. You can't just sit back and let them bleed you out.
Yeah, compared to how the series had been going with just every game getting worse for OpTic and then being down 7,000 gold, the 2 plays they've made, one on the bottom side and this on the top side, do keep them alive. They get Stixxay's flash and then they continue to pile on to get him, and because PowerOfEvil came to save him, he ends up falling as well, even if it's a 2-for-1. And considering the cost of that was only a little bit of damage on a side turret, it's almost miraculous that they didn't lose more map pressure for committing everyone to that Stixxay play top lane. I'm sure in VODS review for CLG, they might even say, how did we let the game get into a point where OpTic could even make these plays? Because it's so unexpected with that big of a gold lead, but OpTic does find a way to stay alive in this game. 5,000 gold at 22 minutes.
Well, Stixxay's got himself 3 crit items online here for the Caitlyn. Very scary with Rapid Fire and Static Shiv together. Wiggily about to walk up towards Meteos here. They were expecting someone to be in the brush, but Meteos gets himself away.
That was almost so sick from Biofrost. Anticipated where the flagging drag would go, but was just short. If you hit that, that could be a kill on the jungler and potentially a Baron. That would have been a massive pick. But, you know, OpTic has slowed down the game a little bit. You know, Crown has taken down now top tier 1, bottom tier 1 with his split push. They got a couple kills. They have scraped their way back a little bit closer. CLG certainly still by far in the driver's seat here, but we have to see them continue to push the pace of the game, because if you allow the gold lead to stagnate, OpTic will have their chances.
Yep, Corki could scale up. Xayah as well could start catching up to Stixxay, even though he's not even close.
It's a long road.
Yeah, here they go, though, just trying to get the outer 6 down. They have the people, so they should be able to do it with no contest.
Yep, don't even need to sit down the trap line here just yet, and they're going to keep pushing until OpTic responds to it with an appropriate amount of manpower. Wiggly's clearing out the jungle camps as he makes his way towards the rest of his team, and this is where difficulties will start. Even when you're really far ahead, it can be difficult to break that inhibitor line, except, oh wait, what's that? The inhibitor line was broken at 19 minutes. Well, hot dog. Let's see what they can find here in the mid lane. CLG gonna continue that pressure. OpTic Gaming have to find something to grab onto, some way to hold on to this game.
Yeah, and the threat through these turrets is so great, because if they do just land that one binding, it's gonna be actually anyone else but Jarvan's full health bar as they knock him out and get a bunch of damage out onto this turret.
Well, there were a couple auto attacks and spells fired off into Ruin here, but now he's not in any danger whatsoever. Crown goes on a suicide mission, barely gets himself away. OpTic tries to find their angle, but just can't do it.
They at least do push them back and defend the inhibitor tower, though. But Baron on the map here, is becoming more and more of a target. As they're getting tankier and tankier, the Poppy is getting to the point where she's going to be able to hold that pretty easily, and they can look to set up around that Baron area. OpTic does have some defensive vision, on that side of the map, trying to kind of protect themselves, just in this little quadrant. But really, if CLG can move up into this area and start to get some vision down, they can pull OpTic into them and utilize the Caitlyn traps to try to force them to engage through that.
Yeah, and I think Meteos has to play so well here. He is the only person who can control vision, because additionally, since he has the most health, he also has the Jarvan EQ, which if he's casting it at the right time, can still move through a dark binding. So he's the one that needs to get vision, and he needs to escape catches like this.
And not get smacked up against the wall. Biofrost has him with a burn, but at the same time, OpTic critically get one in trade. PowerOfEvil out of the picture. Pretty important here. Stixxay also eating a ton of damage, and Ruin has finally gone too far. Forced to flash out defensively. A nice route onto Big. Ace in the hole will be denied as Ruin takes the kill with a hammer shock.
Little ring around the rosy there. Ruin runs all the way around the red buff back in, and they're able to take down Big. But it was a good pick onto PowerOfEvil. OpTic are taking their swings where they can find them. They're trying to fight back into this game, and the pick on Meteos, again, could have been Baron if it weren't for a nice little trade kill from OpTic. But again, here we have CLG just straight up starting the Baron.
Arrow didn't reset, though, so he is here to at least see it. Meteos, though, as he died, can't make it for a smite.
CLG have everybody here. They're ready to go. Baron down to about 1,500, and it is secured by the Sylas. Wiggily on point to make sure they don't give that one away. Dhokla forced to flash away from Stixxay's red buff, and now CLG are ready to go. 5 men with Baron buffs. Everybody's regrouping, and it's time for a big push.
And that could very well be the death knell of OpTic in this series. With that Baron buff, with the Caitlyn to siege, and this huge gold lead, CLG should be able to march down the map and deal crippling damage to OpTic's base.
Yeah, watching this fight one more time, Meteos is actually on the way to set up this pick onto PowerOfEvil, so the bottom left of your screen you actually see Crown and Big on that control ward, but Meteos can't get out fast enough with his EQ. And this is actually where OpTic saw an opportunity to kind of turn the game around. It's just Ruin is so darn tanky that he's able to flash to the side, and Big doesn't realize there's a trap right there. It's kind of hidden behind his own control ward, and he's so squishy once he steps on that trap.
Yeah, I mean, it's just ridiculous that they couldn't actually take Ruin down there. It shows how strong he is at this point in the game. He just ran all the way around the red buff to be involved, and Dhokla is building for this 1v1. You can see, he has gone Bladed Rune King, Cleaver, Lord Dominix. This is straight up to try to fight this Poppy, but Ruin really has been getting more done, and here comes CLG looking to siege up with this Baron on the bottom side.
CLG not even concerned about the exposed mid lane inhibitor. The initiation from OpTic makes an attempt on Stixxay, but they won't be able to find him. An arrow is slam dunk before he can ult or flash. Ace in the hole makes its way in. Crown is out, and CLG are on the victory march.
2 down, both carries, 2 inhibitors coming up, and CLG looking to make it a 3-0 and punch their ticket to the semifinals.
There comes your initiation. Syndra starting things off with a scat of the week. There comes your juggle. There goes OpTic Gaming. Stixxay's got a double kill. The Nexus turrets will fall to the might of CLG. They're just playing with their food at this point. Big, he'll try to stay alive underneath the fountain. It has been a long time coming, but CLG are headed to the semifinals.
And what a series it was. CLG clean sweep over OpTic. OpTic really made him work for it in